Turn your picture into bed. It's the Sonia Show. Turn your picture into bed. Hello, hello, and welcome to the Sonia Shockley Show. I am your host, Sonia Michelle Shockley, inspirational singer and speaker, life coach, soul nurturer, and your big sister in relationships. And I am here to help you change your pain into purpose and turn your bitter into better. Yeah. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Doesn't that sound amazing to be able to turn your bitter into something better? Oh, I'm super excited today. Oh, I'm so excited because today I have with me experts in a field that I love called hospice. We're having a conversation for those of you who are at that point where you're considering what is the next step of care for that loved one who is dealing with a terminal diagnosis, a terminal illness. So let's just take a moment right now and introduce ourselves and just tell a little bit about what we do. I, of course, as many of you know, I'm a chaplain in hospice. Kathy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, and thank you, Tonya, for having us all. It is an honor to be here. My name is Kathy Hickle, and I'm a pastor of a local neighborhood church in Peoria, Arizona. And for the past 4 years, I have taken those skills and gone into a more specialized, beautiful field of hospice. And I also, too, am a hospice chaplain.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Kathy, so much for being here. Let's go to you, Jenna.
Yeah, thanks for having me on this morning. My name is Jenna Senator, and I am a registered nurse. And I've been working in home hospice for about 6 months now. Prior to that, I was working in an office setting, and before that in the hospital. So glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenna. And Summer, go ahead and share with us.
Hello, everybody. I am a medical social worker. I've been a social worker for 18 years, and I've been in the hospice world for 7 years altogether. So,
Wow. And Kelly, can you tell us who you are?
Yes, I'm Kelly Bennett. I'm a medical social worker and have been working in hospice for the last 10 years. And I also have a private practice that I work in as well. And yeah, love hospice. And thank you for having us all.
Yes, thank you. I'm so honored because we have such a wealth of resources between all of us, all of our experiences combined together, the tools that we use to be a blessing to people. You know, one of the things that I love about hospice is the holistic approach. Whoever invented hospice, I'm not sure who the founder was, but just the fact that they're willing to treat the mind, the body, and the soul. Because anyone who is in healthcare, we understand how all three of them are connected. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, and that's one of the things that I appreciate about hospice. When you think about being able to minister or to heal a certain part of a person's well-being, what does that mean for you? And let's start out with Kathy as we talk about just the spiritual component of some of the clients that we work with. Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Kathy. I had muted you. Go ahead.
Probably wise to mute me when I'm not muted. I agree with you 100%, Sonia, that one of the joys of hospice is that holistic approach, both for the patients, the families, as well as us as humanity. I love being part of a team. Before I went into ministry and all, I really liked sports, and so I love every aspect that each one of us can bring to the families. So I think as we are part of just a more holistic model of medicine, it helps us individually in our own lives, which then enhances our care for others. And then as opposed to the spiritual side, it's beautiful how you watch as the physical side gets managed, that the spiritual side is actually ripe and ready. And for whatever that means for whoever, the family or the patient, you can see that transition embodied as the patient proceeds into their days, their days. And then the family, I think, again, watching that every one of our components, I believe it's so healing for the family as well.
Amen. Yes, that's so true. And Jenna, you're focused more on the physical aspects and, just monitoring the body, and how the person is dealing with the stress or the pain. What's your perspective when you think about the three being tied together, the mind, body, and soul?
Yeah, I think it's all very important and it's part of the process of healthcare, but unfortunately a lot of areas of healthcare kind of only focus on the body, which is definitely something I've experienced, or you may not have time to address other aspects of the patient's life. So that's one reason I love hospice is, oftentimes the patients are more open or receptive to receiving that type of care because they're often they're reflecting on their life and they want someone they can lean on in that area as well. Whereas maybe in the past they've been, only focused on their body and only focused on healing and haven't focused on healing other parts of themselves. So of course the physical aspect is important, making the patient comfortable. But again, I think it's so important to include all aspects.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much. I'm thinking about the fact that many times I don't think we even talk about our emotions until the illness shows up in the physical. It's when it manifests now in the physical, and we're now at the end of the road, we're on our deathbed. Now, all of a sudden, for many people, this is the first time that they've been emotionally vulnerable. Kelly, would you like to say a few things about that?
Yeah, I love it when a family is able to be open and share what their feelings are. It really helps them process what's happening with their family member, as well as that family member being able to share their life history, the exciting things that have happened in their lives, the sad moments that have happened in their lives, and really reflect on their life and their joy and celebrate their experience while they've been here.
Yes. And that just shows you the gift that hospice is. Let's go on to the next question. Many people think that hospice is just for the dying. Summer, would you like to say a few reflections? What are your thoughts on that when you hear that statement?
Well, I think it's just the approach, it's the culture back, many years ago that hospice was just for the dying. And it's really great that the culture has changed. That's why we can start off with palliative care first. That someone who is not really ready for that hospice care, they can start off with the palliative care, which is a program that's pre-hospice to look at your diagnosis, and you can still get aggressive treatment until you're ready for hospice care. And I tell people a lot that there are so many people that come on hospice that end up graduating off of hospice because they are at a point that medically they just needed that extra care, that extra love from a hospice that will be able to provide them to manage their symptoms in order for them to just live comfortably. And it's a quality of life, that they get to the point that they can live a little longer and graduate from hospice until they're at the end of life stage. So
Yes,
it is.
I love it. And thank you so much for talking about palliative care, because I think many people are misinformed and they don't know the difference. So I appreciate you mentioning that right now. How about control, Jenna? So many people, they're so afraid to give up control. I mean, if I sign up with hospice, does this mean I'm going to give up control, and now you're going to make all my decisions for me? Talk a little bit about some of the anxiety that people might have when it comes to thinking that they'll have to give up control with hospice.
Yeah, I think that's something that we all struggle with in our lives, is having control over our health, our families, our environment. And I think getting to that point in life when maybe you already don't have control over many of those things, it's hard to, verbalize that you're, kind of letting go, but you still have, you still have choices, you still have options, and it's of course, always your choice or your family to go onto hospice. And of course, we listen to the patient, we listen to the families. It's always a back and forth. And I think hospice is a healthy way for people to let someone help them when they're struggling to help themselves, and, kind of let other people work in their best interest. And kind of work on their behalf with, patient advocacy and just doing what's best for them and their families.
Yes, yes, I like the word choices. Kelly, I see you smiling on that word. When you hear Jenna talking about choices and allowing the patient to make choices, what comes up for you?
Oh, that they have control over what's happening with themselves and with their family member while their loved one's in hospice or while they're in hospice.
Yeah.
And that's really important for the patient to know, as well as the family to know.
Yeah.
Right, right. I see you nodding your head. Kathy, did you want to add anything to that?
Just in total agreement. And I'll just echo the fact that it feels like their lives are so out of control, both for the patient and the family. Despite how old you are and how ready you may seem, death is something none of us can talk about after the fact. So the fact that this is a beautiful embodied care, the ability to have choices, still in control of who's coming when and how much, all the things that, as much control as we can still give them, the integrity, the respect, that's hospice's goal.
Yes, yes, for sure. And to be able, like what you said, you feel like you're losing control.
Mm-hmm.
Now here you are fighting for your life. And many times I find that the patient is ready. The family is not. And that has been my experience. So I'll sit with the patient and they really are okay. But it's just the family is not ready to release and to let go. And so hospice is not just for the patient, it's also for the families and helping them to now go through the process of letting go. Summer, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I speak many times to families that this is something that we are not prepared for in life. You're not taught these lessons as you're getting older. You see your mother and your father, so you're learning how to be a mother or father. You're learning how to be a parent to someone, or you're learning how to work. But you're not taught how to grieve the person that you love the most. And you're also grieving every step of their illness, from the beginning when they are not able to walk, to the fact that they're unable to get out of bed. So you're grieving every step of that. So this is something that you're not taught how to grieve. So it's a wing it kind of thing. You take it step by step, moment by moment. And that's why hospice is so great, because we're providing that support to help you emotionally, physically, and spiritually deal with those grieving processes of your loved one going through their step of end of life.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. And many times the grieving starts before the patient dies. In the cases of Alzheimer's, and Kelly did a wonderful presentation the other day on Alzheimer's. I have to have you back, Kelly, to do that presentation for us here on the Sonia Shockley Show. But many times you're just trying to come to terms that mom or dad doesn't even recognize you anymore, that they don't know your name anymore, that they're forgetting. So you're grieving even before they actually pass. Can you talk a little bit about that, Kelly?
Yeah. Some patients' families will go through that entire grieving process before their loved one has even passed, when they've got Alzheimer's and dementia. And it's really due to the fact that there's so many changes in their loved one that they don't even recognize them as their mother, their father, their sister, their brother, their loved one. And that can be really, really challenging for families, and helping them know that that's okay. It's okay to go ahead and grieve prior to the loss of your loved one, and that we're here as well after the loved one passes, who has Alzheimer's or dementia. That can be a time when it really hits them that their mother, father, loved one has passed.
Yes, it looks like I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties. Can you still hear me at least?
We can hear you, Sonia.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Seems like we're getting stuck, but we're going to keep on carrying on.
Yeah.
Yes, and I appreciate that answer. It's just being able to, and that's what hospice provides. We provide that person who's willing to journey with you as you go through this process. Yes, excellent. Many times people think that hospice is expensive. Is that something that one of our social workers want to talk about, the cost of hospice? And they think that it might cost them an arm and a leg to be on hospice. Summer, can you say a few words to that?
Well, hospice doesn't cost anything to families. So it's not expensive at all. It's insurance, taking care of insurance takes care of your hospice. And those that do not have insurance, there are certain hospices that has foundations that are able to provide hospice for those families. So it's not expensive at all to have your family taken care of at end of life.
Good. Now that's good to know. Good information. You guys are just awesome. I'm so happy to have all of these experts here with us as we talk about the gift of hospice, the gift of hospice. Let's talk for a few minutes about once you decide to go on hospice, can you now make a decision to come off? And I'm going to direct that question to you, Summer. I'm not sure what's going on. Can you guys still see me okay?
We see you.
Yep.
Yeah, we see you.
Okay, all right, good. Because I'm getting green screens for some reason. So I can't see you, but if you can see me, then we'll carry it. Okay, so go ahead and answer that, Summer, a little bit about if they decide, hey, listen, I want to come off of hospice. What does something like that look like?
Well, it's patient choice and I know Jenna probably could speak more to this as well too, that you have a choice to be on hospice. It's a gift. That's why it's the gift of hospice. You decide to, if you decide to come onto hospice, you decide to come off hospice. And some family members do decide their choice because they're not completely ready to stop aggressive treatment. But it is a choice. It's, everyone has a choice in any of their healthcare decisions in life. So I would like Jenna to speak to what are some of those things too that people come off, because I know she deals with it more in nursing than we do as social worker. We kind of come in and help the nurses along with those situations.
Yes. Go ahead, Jenna.
Yeah, again, like you said, it comes down to choices, and every patient has a choice over their healthcare. And, working in hospice, we can't see the future. So, we do our best to assess the patient and determine when hospice may be appropriate, but sometimes we're wrong, and the patient or the family, the patient may improve in their health and in their, just in their mind. And so it's awesome that it's not an end all be all with hospice. And, you can always make the choice to discontinue, and then even, use those services again in the future. Like you said, Summer, it's all about choices. And it's great that patients and families have the opportunity to have both those choices.
Yes, yes. And ladies, if I'm forgetting any of the services that we provide, please, feel free to chime in. I know that we provide the physical aspect, as far as nursing. You have nurses, you have the CNAs who come out and take care of the daily needs. We have a social worker who's there to help you with emotional support and any type of resources that you may not be familiar with. The social worker is there for that. And then there's also the spiritual care with the chaplains who are there. um, are there any other services that I might be missing that
Well,
you
you have
can think of?
volunteers too.
Go ahead, I'm listening. What'd you say?
We have the volunteers, people in our community who are trained, have to pass our training, that volunteers can go into the home and provide some support to the family, additional to our medical staff, to give those families some support, such as sitting with a patient and reading with that patient, singing with that patient. We have music therapy, therapists that come in, pet therapists that can go into the home. It's just volunteers that give that extra love to some of our families.
Yes, that's right. We can't forget about those volunteers, and it's so helpful because companionship is huge. And I even tell that to some of my friends. It's not about the journey, even though, or I should say, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. And it's so nice to have great companionship along the journey. And so many times when you're talking to these people and hearing their stories, which is the part of hospice that I love, it's the part of what I love about being a chaplain, is just hearing the stories. Veterans, hearing their stories. We've got World War II veterans and, different Korean wars, with different type of veterans, mothers, stay-at-home moms. Their pride and joy has been their children. There's just some fantastic and amazing stories that you get to hear, and they so appreciate you being willing to come alongside them, and just be a part of that journey. What do you feel? And I'll start with you, Jenna. Do you feel like the people are just so appreciative of the services that you're providing during this hospice care journey?
Yes, of course. Many of the patients, we have great conversations with, and they always are so thankful just to see us there. And I think it goes hand in hand with, again, they're reflecting on their life and they're reflecting on their relationships. And They're just appreciative for every moment and every interaction they have. And that's a pleasure to be a part of that.
Yes, that's the truth. Anyone else? Any just stories? And of course, we won't say any names or anything, but just stories that stand out for you that really just kind of seal your choice to being a part of doing this hospice. Let's start out with you, Kathy. Just something that stands out, and you're like, wow, I just love this work. We are such a gift to these people.
Yes, thank you, Sonia. Gosh, it's hard to pick just one, of course, because every family is so unique and different. But at the risk of not answering your question, I do want to say that I think one of the beautiful things about hospice that each family uniquely experiences is we're so countercultural. Like, the goal is not necessarily to get well physically. It's not. The goal is to embody this humanity, this life in which we all get a part of. We all have a part of the journey. So I think the beautiful part of what we get to do is when families slightly let their guard down and let us in. And then we've mentioned they share their stories and things like that, but yet they also, when their loved one does pass, there's that section. And then after their loved one passes, there's still that, what I find to be the most invigorating part of this work is being allowed to come alongside, companion the bereaved, those who are still here. And just whenever I see someone, broken and bereaved, of course, because their loved one has transitioned before them, and yet over the 13-month or however long they let us companion with them, watch them grieve and mourn and turn that loss into something that empowers them to bring more light to their life as they continue on. That's the beauty that stands out to me in this work, is what continued life in the loved ones, and help them, or just walk alongside them as they grab onto what it is that brings them joy again.
I know. I love it. I love it. How about you, Kelly? Anything that stands out, just the reason why you see hospice as such a gift to so many?
It's a great sense of support for the family. If you need therapy services, the social workers, we're here to provide that either to the patient or the family. Those services can happen while the patient is with us on hospice, or as Kathy has shared, in the bereavement process. No one has left the team. We're all still a cohesive team, and we're here for the family even after the patient has passed on. So I think it's really important for people to know that once their family members pass, they're not, so to speak, abandoned, that we're here to help support them and lift them up in their journey through the grief process.
Yes, that is so important to know. It's so comforting to still receive the calls, from the chaplain, the social worker, the nurse, just saying, hey, just checking in, wanting to see how you're doing during this time. And again, it's always welcomed. So many people are just grateful for our support. Any story stand out for you, Summer or Jenna?
I was waiting for Jenna.
Sorry.
I had a spouse, a lady, her husband was transitioning and to completion of life, and the fact that she was saying that we were her family, and that we were her only family, because we run into that a lot. Families may be either out of state or they really don't have any family left. Her and her husband didn't have any children. And so she had nieces and nephews, but they were very far away, disconnected. So we became her children. We became her sisters, and and she really said that if she didn't have her family, which was the hospice team, she wouldn't have made it through losing her husband. So we become their family. We really do.
Yes. Huge. That's huge. I love it. Jenna, did you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I guess I would say for me, I do deal with families as well, but I think the social workers and the chaplains uh, do that a little bit more. But for me, I see most of the patients once or twice a week. And so, you know, just like you see your friends, weekly, you kind of have that relationship with the patients. And, a lot of, like you said, a lot of them don't have families in town, or their friends have passed. And so, it's really a pleasure to be able to be kind of the primary person they're seeing, from week to week, and just spending time with them and getting to know them, like you would a friend. Out for coffee is sometimes what it feels like. Yeah. Caring for their physical side, but it's great being able to see patients so often and building that relationship.
Yes, of course. I I think about the fact that, I think when I fell in love with hospice, and it was when my mother was transitioning. I knew the word hospice, but really wasn't familiar with all of the services that they offered. And our nurse during that time, she not only was a family friend, which just God ordained that. That's a whole nother testimony. But I remember that my mother kept telling her that Sonia's not ready to let go. Mm. And so she would tell the nurse that every time the nurse would come to visit. And so then the nurse would tell me, Sonia, your mom doesn't think that you're ready. And I'm like, well, I am ready, but I'm not going to give up hope, because I'm a strong woman of faith. Hey, we're going to take this to the end. I mean, even after she's dead, I'm looking for resurrection. I was not ready to let go as far as saying goodbye. I didn't know how to say goodbye to the person who saw me take my first breath. How do I say goodbye to her now and watch her take her last breath? I remember in that moment, the nurse said, I need you to look at your mother. Mm. And I looked at her and she says, how does she look to you? And I said, she doesn't look good. And she says, okay. She says, she's waiting for you to say it's okay to let go. Mm-hmm. She cannot leave until you give her permission. And so I said, I can't do that. If that's what's holding her on, then hey, we're good. Because she'll never get that permission. If that's what's keeping her here, then we're doing okay. And so I remember calling my pastor and he talked me through it. He says, you don't have to say goodbye. Just remind her of what the next thing is she will see when she opens her eyes again. Remind her of how wonderful of a mother she's been. Remind her how she's raised 3 amazing children. Remind her just how proud you are of her. Remind her of all of those good times. Sing songs to her, quote scripture, do all of her favorite things, and let her know it's okay. And I was able to do that, gathering myself and with my brothers, we came around her. And that morning, early morning, probably about 3 a.m., she transitioned. When I tell that story, I'm sure it's bringing up a lot of emotions in all of you. What is it like talking people now through this process of saying goodbye to someone who has meant so much to them. And I'll start out with you, Jenna, because like I said, my nurse during that time, she was awesome. She's still my favorite nurse in the world. I tell her that every time I see her, because she talked me through the most difficult conversation, a conversation that I was not ready yet to have with my mother. Talk a little bit about that, Jenna. What's coming up for you?
Yeah, I've only been doing this for 6 months, so I'm definitely not the expert on it. But I think a big thing is just supporting and leaving space for the family to talk and share their memories. And, I guess just when you feel it's right to say something or to, guide them towards, positive conversation and positive thoughts about their loved one. But again, I just think it's so important just to be supportive and just to be there and allow them to have those feelings in a safe space with someone who's, again, they know is going to support them and that they trust.
Yes, that's good. How about you, Summer? Walking with families.
To be honest, it's a gift for me to have the opportunity to do that. Just the fact of being with someone in one of their hardest moments, and sometimes just the fact of being next to them in silence, because the support of silence sometimes is a gift in it, you know. Because one thing I tell everyone, grief is personal. Every person's going to grieve differently, and you're going to grieve every person that leaves your world differently as well. So it's a gift for me to be there with someone who is grieving the person that is leaving this world right at that moment, and being a support for them. That's why I do social work. It's a gift.
It really is a gift, because when you're inviting me now to come alongside you in this journey, I'm honored. I really I'm honored. And there's a sacredness about being with someone as they say their final goodbyes. So yes, for sure. Kelly, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's a beautiful moment when you can sit with the family as they're saying goodbye to their loved one and seeing them tell stories about their family member, seeing the family together, maybe laughing, bringing the family pet to say their goodbyes, because that's important as well for both the patient and the pet. But just seeing that cohesiveness. And I remember a particular family, they called me on the phone and just wanted me there on the phone during the whole process with the family. It was beautiful here to hear the children coming in singing to their grandfather, and they would pop in and out, and just hearing the family share some really amazing stories about their father.
Yes.
So it's beautiful to be a part of that and to support them through that process.
For sure. And, I've been in healthcare over 30 years. This has been my career. About 18 of those years, I worked as an ultrasound technologist. And now here God has me in hospice. So he had me at the beginning of life, at the beginning of someone's journey, and now he has me at the end. And there's so many similarities. There's so many similarities. And I hear you, Kathy, I'm coming to you. So start getting your thoughts together. But, when I think about the beginning, you have this community that just organically formed around you to support you and to cheer you on and say, welcome to planet Earth. And they celebrate everything about you. You're so beautiful, and what's your name? And they help you walk, they help you talk, they feed you, they change your diapers, they do all of these things for you, and it's just joy to do these things and to support you. And so now you come to the end of the journey.
Mm.
And some of those same things that happened at the beginning of the journey are now happening for you. And for those who it's difficult because you've been independent for so long, you don't want any help. But I just want to encourage you to receive the help, to allow people who have loved you all of your life to now support you. And if you don't have those people, it's so good to know that hospice is here to be a part of that community, just gathering around you and supporting you as you leave from this life to the next. Kathy, what do you want to add when I just shared those thoughts with you?
Thank you for sharing. That was so beautiful, and that's truly how I view our role as hospice. I term it to some families as midwife. We're like the midwives, birthing towards the next stage. Depending on what faith group, and again, a thing about the chaplain with hospice, there's no specific faith. It's just kind of holding space, the mystery of what cannot be seen, but can be felt and almost known. So I think, just kind of adding to what you beautifully said, Sonia, is that as we're born, there's that celebration and the joy, but there's also that vulnerability piece where that baby is helpless, but so celebrated and cherished. I believe that's one of the gifts of hospice is this loved one who is transitioning, that they are helpless, but so cherished and so loved. And it strips away all of the misconceptions that we think humanity should or shouldn't be. It just strips away all the striving. It strips away all the cultural pressures, and really and truly it's just true, authentic connection. And what the goal that we provide is just sheer connection and vulnerability and witnessing the holy. And to me, there's no greater gift than to be able to experience that and to live in the vulnerability of love, truly.
Yes, beautiful. Well put, well put. Well, we have a couple of comments this morning. Maria, she wanted us to know that she was watching. She says hello. Just in case you didn't know she was. She's Maria with nutrition. And then we have a good morning from Deborah. She wanted everybody to know that she's watching and she really understands. She can relate to some of the things that we're sharing this morning. And then Nina, she wanted us to know happy Sabbath on this blessed Sabbath this morning. So thank you so much for sharing your comments today, sharing your reflections. Before we go, anything that you just final comments that you'd like to let our audience know when it comes to hospice, just something that we may have not talked about, or just your final reflections. And I'll start out with you, Kelly.
One of my favorite things about hospice is really getting to know the patient and the families. Yes. Everyone's story is unique and different and beautiful. And I really love that the families allow us to share in that story with them.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. And how about you, Summer?
My biggest thing is I wish more people knew about hospice, and some people are afraid of hospice, but I just want people to know that hospice is truly a gift, and it is something that provides that additional support for families, that is free support for families who are trying to provide and care and love for their family members, especially in the one of the hardest and one of the most scariest times of their lives. So, that is my gift to everyone, is that, if you can reach out to some hospice, there's so many, there's what, 60 hospices, 60 plus hospices in Arizona. um, but a hospice is a gift. So, let us provide love for you, because we're honored to do it.
Yes, that's true. Wonderful. And this work isn't for everybody, but for those who love it, they really do love it. How about you, Jenna? Any final reflections for our audience?
Yeah, I would just echo what Summer and Kelly have said, that, hospice is such a gift, and I think there are a lot of misconceptions about it. And so I just hope that this is encouraging and maybe helps settle some nerves for, people or families who are looking into this, and to at least start the conversation, and yeah, just let us help you with the end of life process. So.
Yes, wonderful. Just knowing that there's somebody that they can get more information from. So, yes, thank you very much for that. And Kathy, did you have any final words for us today before we go?
I'll just add to what everybody else has said. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. That hospice, well, hopefully we are debunking some of the fears, because that word often triggers a fear response. And my desire, hopefully through this, that we're getting the word out and people can have the hospice conversation with their doctors, their families a little bit sooner, and trust the nudging that you know in your soul. If the nudging is towards more this approach to your loved one's care, that you won't have regrets. That's my
Hmm.
for whoever's listening. That
Yes.
hospice not be so fearful. And that there's a quote that I'm going to paraphrase, but it's a beautiful quote, and I'll just leave it with. It says something to the fact that hospice is a dance that we're learning together, but we let the patient lead us.
Hmm. That's the truth. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. And, one of the things that I love is just the fact that I can be potentially sometimes the last voice
Mm,
people hear. And many of us, we know that the hearing is the last sense to go.
mm,
And so now I'm looking at a person who, for the most part, is unresponsive. They're lying there, family members are around, and I'm able to speak the word of God if they're a believer. Of course, I always respect a person's faith, but if they're a believer and I'm able to sing a song to them and to speak the word of God and to pray with them and to be that last voice, what an honor. I mean, really, what an honor to have that privilege. And it's been such a pleasure to serve the families that I have had the opportunity to serve. And in fact, Everett, he made a comment on Facebook, and he was just saying that one of the beauties of being a hospice chaplain is that you're probably the last one to offer prayer for that person. So thank you, Everett, for that comment. I want to thank all of our guests today. I apologize if there's been any technical difficulties today, but I'm sure you were able to gather something or get some sort of information that could help you make a better decision or a more informed decision when it comes to what your choices are at the end of life. It is nice to be able to be at home, to be with your family, and to have healthcare workers who are willing to come to you. We come to your home and we can be a blessing right there in your space that you're familiar with, that you have grown to love so much. So thank you to each one of you ladies for coming on today and interrupting your Saturday. I hope that this was a blessing to you just like it was for me. So just want everybody to know that tomorrow I will be back on at 10 o'clock where we're going to have, an awesome conversation tomorrow as we talk about restoring the offender while respecting the victim, restoring the offender while respecting the victim. I'm going to have two experts when it comes to sexual offenders and sexual people who have dealt with sexual abuse. And you don't want to miss that conversation tomorrow on the Sonia Shockley Show. Until next time, please know that you are in my prayers and I love you with an everlasting love. I appreciate your support. Please check out my YouTube channel. And if you enjoyed today's broadcast, take time to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all. Take care.